Resource collection is a part of Conqueror's Blade that a large part of the community does not even get into. This partially could be due to confusion, as there are a multiple of things to consider, so let's see if we can clear up the topic. Resource collection is done outside of the fief in the world of Conqueror's Blade. Since it is done among the various regions, it can be a very time-consuming process, so the first question to answer is why collect resources? There are three main uses for resources collected in the world. The first is for fief quests. Fief quests are handed out by fiefs and provide the player with honor, house prestige, and house funds for their house. I went into this topic more in another video that I will put a card to. Another reason is for crafting unit kits. The unit kits can be used to save you the extra expense that buying them causes, or it can be sold on the market for some silver. The last main reason is for crafting artillery. Similar to unit kits, you could use them as a cheaper method versus buying, or sell them for profit on the market. So now that we covered why, let's get into resources themselves. There are 8 major types of resources: copper, cotton, food, hides, iron, mounts, stone, and timber. Each resource has various rarities as well: uncommon, common, rare, and epic. There are exceptions to the rarities though. Food only has 1 rarity, but there are different rarities of nodes that impact return rates. Also, mounts do not have a common rarity, but have 2 epics. There are also exotic resources that we won't get into too deeply, but each type of resource will have different exotics that relate to them as well. Each type of resource will be used for different purposes. Most artillery will utilize iron, copper, stone, and timber. They may also trade out for some cotton or hide. Unit kits can use a combination of nearly any of the resources, though the lower tier usually use 2 or 3 of iron, copper, timber, cotton, or hide. The only resources not used in crafting is food and mounts. Food is primarily used to keep your units fed while wandering the world. Mounts are used alongside unit kits to maintain your cavalry units. Now let's get into the act of actually collecting resources. To collect resources, you must approach a resource node in the world. They will be spread around the world throughout all the different regions. Each node will be focused on a specific resource and rarity. You can tell which they are by the icon. Each major resource has an icon, and the rarity is shown by the color of the icon. When you click on a node in the map, it will give you some basic information. It will tell you the name of the node, which tells you the resource. It will show how much resources it has on hand. It will also tell you the fief it is part of, the ruling house, how many times you can gather from it, how much bronze it will cost each time you gather. Down below, they tell you the requirements to gather from it, which involve the minimum level and that you need to have units in your warband. You also must not have your units starving when you gather. As you approach a node and hover over it, you will see a lot of the same information. It will show you the resources, ruling house, alliance the ruling house is in, the status of if the node has resources available, as well as the refresh timer, the fief the node is in, exactly how many resources are left, whether or not the ruling house has permitted you to collect from it, requirements to gather, how many times you can gather from it that day, how much you will pay per a gather, and the amount of influence that node gives the ruling house. When you click on the node next to it, it will open the menu. This has all the same information that the other menus had, but also includes the possible exotics you can get from the node. Each time you collect resources, there is a chance for you to collect exotics. The menu also shows the labor of your warband. This influences how many resources you can get per a collection. At the bottom of the menu, you'll see a gather button, requisition button, and a resource pile button. If you collect more resources than you can carry in your wagon, the resources are added to the resource pile. You will have a time limit to collect those resources from the resource pile before they are deleted. They give you a long timer, so it shouldn't be too difficult. The gather button will start collecting resources. You can use it as many times as the daily limit permits. It will also charge you the amount it shows under tariff for each time you gather. This amount is the base rate, plus the taxes the node owner is charging. If they are charging an obscene amount of taxes or banned you from being able to gather from that node, you can override it by using the requisition button. This will only charge you the base cost of bronze shown under requisition tariff. It will also cost you a requisition order. This is an item earned through rewards from playing matches. Requisitions, as stated, will avoid the node tax, as well as allow you to gather as many times as you can afford. Some other things to consider when collecting resources is that, as I stated earlier, you units may not be starving when collecting resources. You have to keep in consideration your food levels when resource collecting. If you run out of food in the world, you can no longer partake in battles, as well as cannot collect resources. This means that you can conserve some money by allowing your food to run out on a return trip, but must make sure you have enough food when arriving at a node to collect from. You can get food from entering a capital territory, buying from inns, buying from alliance territory, entering house-owned territory, or buying from neutral towns. The last option is to collect food from a farm and use the food. This will take up wagon space, so keep that in mind as you are heading out to fill up on resources. Another thing to note is that you cannot locate a certain exotic at a node in the world. It is possible that this exotic is part of a region that is temporarily unavailable during that season. Under this circumstance, you have to hunt around at various trading posts to find one that will sell it to you for silver. Collecting resources can be a very time-consuming process. Some exotic resources are limited to certain regions, which means that if you need a particular exotic, you may have to cross the entire world to get to it. This means travel time can become overbearing. In a tips and tricks video, I did cover a trick to travel back to your home base quickly, and I will put a card to that video above. Either way, traveling to the node can take a long time. For most players that get into crafting, they usually will pick a piece of artillery or two that they will focus on, as well as the most expensive kits that they use or want to sell. Focusing on a few allows them to cover certain routes or at least plan an optimal path to follow. Trying to focus on too many items at once can strain your bronze funds, take up too much space in your supply dump, and generally become hard to handle. We will touch this topic a bit more later when I make a video covering artillery and unit kit crafting. I hope this video helped shed some light on resource collection. If you want to help the channel, please subscribe and like the video. Comment down below any questions you may still have, and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible. With all that aside, until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield. Got nose down, got nose down. Oh, yes! Yes! Oh, we got a hit.